It's been almost a little over a week since Typhoon Mawar has made its way to Guam, and as we are continuing to recover, Congressman James Moylan is back on island. So, sir, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm glad to be home. I came out for the purpose to assessing the island, and which we started. We had originally planned to come prior to the storm, but our flight was canceled, unfortunately. As soon as we can get out to Guam, I came in Wednesday in the evening, and since that time, we've been actively looking at the island, meeting with officials from federal government to local government as well. But prior to coming on, we already had our meetings with FEMA to see what we're looking at, and as we do our assessments, the amount of help that can be provided by the federal government. We also work really closely with the leadership of the Congress, with the Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, and the leadership, Steve Solis as well, to let them know we'll be coming on out. We'll be needing the help of the federal government, and as we do the assessment. So we'll be returning one day, and that week then I'll be able to go before the Congress members to give us our assessments and let them know how things are going. But my initial impression of the island when we landed, of course, it was so sad. As we flew in, we were able to see some evening lights, but it wasn't as bright as the island used to be. And in the morning, I took my walk down to Tuma, did some exercise, and just saw the devastation. Just when our tourism was coming on back, our hotels were recovering, we were moving forward, and then the natural disaster happens. But since that time, since we've been back here, we've been doing, I mentioned, our assessments. The other day, we were just at FEMA, looking at their warehouse, looking at the distribution and how that's going. We're also meeting with mayors. We're here in Manila right now to see how it is going with him and to hear his concerns too. Earlier, before coming down here, I was in a meeting with the governor, talking to her about our different issues that we're looking at, from COFA, which is very important, and then also the H-2B workers as well, because we really need this to help our recovery come on through. So we're working closely with a good relationship from the mayor's office here in Manila, and we were in Dededo as well. We're looking forward to going across the island. We had our discussion with Rear Admiral Nicholson as well to look at his facilities and his damages too, to include the governor's overall view and what the governor would like us to do and voice our concern to the U.S. Congress.
So I know you've already been talking to the governor about the concerns as well as the mayors. Are you going to be interviewing the other mayors as well, seeing what they're going through in the individual, in your continuation of your assessments of the whole island in general? And what do you plan on doing about it? Because, like you said, you are talking to FEMA and all the other agencies about the recovery. So, what do you, for your office, what are you planning on doing to help with the recovery process?
We're hoping to get to each village. Our time here is short, so we're doing the best we can. What we're looking at is, of course, we're receiving the money to come on in for the federal government, but there's some matching requirements that we already written to the president to say, remove that. This is our situation. We just went through devastation with the typhoon. There are thousands of folks that are without homes. Hundreds of businesses have been damaged as well. Our government is looking at our general fund. How are we going to rebound that? We need to help the people of Guam. That's by helping saving some money, especially by not having us to pay the difference, whether it be 75-25, whether it be 80-20, whatever the percentage is. We're asking for a waiver of that. We'll also be looking when we get back to DC as additional long-term programs. We're happy FEMA is here to assist us, but we're looking at long-term programs because we're seeing this damage is devastating, especially with the businesses trying to come back as they rebuild their facilities. We were up at one restaurant that the windows were just shattered and blown out, right? Furnishings and everything. But how does he keep his employees going? How does he keep his business going? It's going to be really hard, and we want the recovery to happen. So we need long-term programs, and that's one thing we're working with our Republican conference there to say this is what the island needs. And when I get back on Thursday, they'll be expecting, the Republican conference expecting a briefing from me to say these are our priorities and how they can help us.
And how can you exactly also help extending that aid to, I know you mentioned with the H2 workers, but also extending that aid to our COFA immigrants because, they can't access to, programs that are only applicable to U.S. citizens.
Right. So there's some long-term goals that we have, but right now the President of the United States we're pending a letter to send to him to request that we wait for this purpose as humanitarian reasons. Right. We are going to, of course, the governor has expressed it's about being humane, right, and doing the correct thing, and this is why we need to provide these services. They can't pay, we still have to provide these services. The President of the United States has the authority in the short-term thing to say, waive that, allow them to have that opportunity to. So we're going to echo that to the President of the United States. We'll be sending a letter that will be sent out to him as well.
I know that, it's a little up in the air. I know it's just an initial start, but how soon can we get, hear back and get this going?
I think because the sense of urgency, we're talking about lives and the care of our people of Guam, whether you're a local migrant, whether you're a resident of Guam or a resident of Guam, then we just need to, we're talking about lives. So I think the priority, the President will be listening to us as well as the Governor of Guam too, and then the House of the Congress. So humanitarian purposes, I believe this will be taken care of quickly, swiftly through the President's help.
Thank you. So ASAP.
Pardon me?
ASAP.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Congressman Moylan.
You're welcome. Thank you.